Welcome to Politics Done Right, live from Netroots Nation 2022. We're here with Brett Pransky. I have to watch the way I say my N. Welcome to Politics Done Right. Brent, you're with the Rick Smith Show.
Yes, I am.
I am.
Thanks for having me.
And you guys recognize that voice, right? Enough of you in Houston are actually downloading his stuff. So talk to me about your show. First of all, tell me a little bit about yourself.
A little bit about myself. I actually began my time on the show as a guest.
Mm-hmm.
I was a candidate. I was running for a state legislature seat in Ohio, and I was on the show a couple times as a guest. Really enjoyed it. Really, kind of hit it off with Rick. And then when my campaign ultimately failed, because I was running in one of those kind of blue dot in a red sea type areas.
Right.
So I kind of always knew the outcome, but the campaign was the service.
Right.
Being out there and doing the things. We had a lot of good movement. We did good things in the race, but the end was predetermined. So after that was over, Rick and I just got to talking, and he said, hey, why don't you come on board and help us build and grow the show? And I've been here ever since. So it's been about coming up on 2 years now.
Oh, it's for some reason it seemed like it's been longer than that.
Yeah, it feels like that sometimes.
Well, this is hard work.
It
man.
is definitely.
People don't know how hard it is sometimes.
It's incredibly hard work.
Yes.
And it's given me a lot of respect for it, because I didn't really know. I'd been a guest a couple of times. I'd done a few shows, but I'd never really seen behind the curtain before. So getting that look at kind of how this stuff is created has just been, it's been a fantastic experience. And it's kind of made me a true believer. I kind of think that this is where, if we're going to compete, this is where it has to begin.
I want to touch on that in a little bit, but first of all, tell for those who don't know about the Rick Smith Show, tell them about the show.
Well, the easy way to describe us is a media option for the working class. The show is grounded in kind of old school democratic principles. I like to call Rick a tool belt liberal. You know what I mean? So kind of those old school values that kind of talking about the things that hit people in their wallet and that kind of stuff, and kind of motivating them to get involved in the process that way, as opposed to the kind of old school kind of left right. We're just going to sit here and whack away at each other all the time. We try to take all the issues and give them a quarter turn and talk about them in an up down sense.
Right.
So it's not a matter of are Democrats right or Republicans right, is the left right, is the right or anything like that. It's more about the up and down of it. Is are you better off today than you were yesterday?
Right.
Is it looking like we can be better off tomorrow? And how do we get there? So these are the kinds of things we talk about on a daily basis.
Now, tell us now, where do you think we are as a society with respect to the working class, and what do we need to do to go forward? Because earlier you mentioned you think this is how we are going to make that move with these types of programs to enlighten and I learned at a conference I went to recently not to use the word empower, because people are already empowered. They just need to know that they are. Right. So how do we use these programs to get there?
Well, I think there's a couple of things that we do. And to be honest, we're going to want to mimic some of the things that have been done on the right for the last 40, 50 years. First of all, we need to start earlier. That's why I believe that the radio podcast universe is the path, because they start first thing in the morning. You turn on your radio, and not to mention, while it's a video-driven culture, and there's no questioning that. No one's watching YouTube at work.
Right.
You know what I mean? They turn on the radio, they turn on a podcast or something like that. So to be in people's ears, while they're on the shop floor, while they're in the office or something like that, this is still the medium to be in.
Right.
And so that's why, I've chosen to try to make an impact here, as opposed to, going into some other universe.
Well, I mean, the good thing about it is, in as much as you're saying, people are going to listen when they're in the work. You guys do video also.
Yes, we do. We've got a television show on Free Speech TV. We're in roughly 65 million homes twice a week. So there's definitely a video component to what we do. And then we have all the streaming options as well, just like your YouTubes, and you can find us on Twitch and some of these other places as well. But the core, the core of the program is still the podcast and the radio show.
Right.
That's what we are at our heart, and everything builds off of that.
And now, what are in all this work that you're doing, what are you trying to tell the working class right now?
Right now is that probably the message that we push the most often can probably be boiled down into this, and that is that the world around you, especially the media universe, they're using left-right issues to steer you away from up-down issues. So we are
Repeat
actually.
that. I think that's an important statement you just made there.
Well, it's kind of like, in the past we've used race to hide class and some of these other issues, and we use it to divide people. That left-right division is intentional, and it's well financed, and it's one of those things that if I can get you to to disagree with these other people who you would otherwise join hands with, because keep in mind, the people who are out there fighting it out on Facebook pages every day, most of them work for a living. Mm-hmm. Most of them, outside of that particular, right or left-leaning ideology, are almost identical, at least economically. And they all have the same kind of interest, and there's a lot of interest in pushing in the same direction, to get better, better wages, hours, conditions, better lives for our families, better futures for our kids. These are things that everyone wants. But if we actually were to unite behind those principles, there's a whole lot of people in Washington, D.C. be going home. So what we have is this use of division, to keep people who would otherwise join together from joining together, so that the people who are currently running things can keep running it.
Right.
So,
now, Brett, what would you have liked me to ask you that I haven't thus far?
Let's see. That's a good question.
That's always my last question. If you watch my programs, you'll see that's always my last question.
You know what? I think that the basic plug stuff, maybe, kind of where we can be found and how often and things like that. How about when are you coming to Texas on the radio? That's a question I'd like you to ask.
You go ahead and you talk to Texans and say, hey, when are we going to get the Rick Smith show on KPFT?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm hoping for. That's really what I want to do. I want to bring the show to Texas. I want to bring the show to to where there's so many working people who
right.
I think could get some real value out of our messaging. So as soon as possible, I would love to bring content to KPFT, and hopefully this is something that the folks in and us can talk about, get it started as soon as we can.
Well, look, I appreciate you sitting down here with me, because you guys do a lot of very good work, and nobody can argue about your approach. So thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number 1, subscribe to our channel, and number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.